Well, hello there. This is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. A few weeks ago, I made a video talking about the reversal, where you're in a losing position and through the application of a deliberate, tricky tactical approach, you turn the game around, play for the win and win, or maybe get a draw, which is potentially okay when you're completely losing. Now in this game, I got something very similar. I make a serious blunder, but then I recover and play for the win. Let's go take a look. Like many of my games, especially with Tales of Woe, this game starts with a Vienna Gambit. E4, E5, Knight C3, Vienna game, and they play the fork beer, Knight F6, in Vienna Gambit, one of my favorite openings in chess. And in this game, Black plays D6. So the best move for them is, of course, D5, which enters the Vienna game main line. Now, if you don't enter the main line and you opt to decline the Vienna Gambit, the second best approach is, in fact, D6. However, for those of you who follow my channel, I've covered this a little bit before. The best approach against D6 decline of the Vienna Gambit is that we want to take control of the full center of D4. However, we can't play D4 straight up because after D4 captures, yes, we capture back, but Black then has the knight, which wins tempo on our queen. Now, it's still sort of technically kind of okay, it's equal, but it's just not as good. So here, the best move is to play the king's knight. So knight to F3, and the idea is the knight gives another defender to the D4 square, preparing for D4. And if we're allowed to play D4, and in this case we are because they developed the other knight, well, that's what we should do. The D4, because if they then now capture in the center and clarify the situation, captures, 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 at the end of the sequence, we now have developed our queen to a powerful square in the middle of the board. And this is good for us. Now in this game, Black continues to play. I'm pretty happy with the position. I know I'm doing okay. It's not too clear what the best move for Black is. Here they decide to develop their queen to E7. Now this is not a great move often against a Vienna game because we've already developed our queen's knight, and a queen's knight's natural square is that it wants to go to D5, which has this powerful attack on the E7 square, but also on the C7 square, which comes with an absolute fork of the king and rook. So it's often not good for Black to place the queen onto that square. Here I decide to, nothing to do, let's just develop our bishop to its natural developing square, potentially looking at the weak F pawn. The other option would be to develop the other bishop, and so we can castle in either direction. Let's go. Here they opt to play G6. Again, not so accurate, and here in fact it's about +2. It's actually difficult for Black to play against the Vienna Gambit positions. Now their logic here is, well, okay, potentially put their dark square bishop and fianchetto it, control the long dark square diagonal, and potentially having an attack on the queen. So I can understand that. That potentially makes a bit of sense. Here, I just simply short castle. My king is safe. Their setup is a little bit weird. They now fianchetto their bishop, and in this position, I make my blunder. So this game was a game of 10-minute rapid, an unrated game, and sometimes I play these games to basically just relax. It's basically my version of Blitz. I play often very, very quickly, bang, 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 bang. When I'm not sort of thinking through in my usual format, which is 15+10 rapid. I usually play those games much more seriously. This game, I played it very, very quick. Here, I decided that I wanted to move my queen preemptively off that long dark square diagonal. And without thinking it through, I was thinking, maybe queen to d5, very nice battery here. Of course, that's a straight up blunder. Now I made that move in pretty much 5 seconds, 5.1 seconds. Of course, that's a blunder because the square is defended by the opponent's knight on f6. Straight up blunder. They were probably super happy, gleeful. Look at this noob playing their queen, hanging it in one move, captures. And here I've lost my queen. A clean loss of the queen. Now for many people, when they make a blunder like this, they might sort of pull their hair out, get really angry at themselves, maybe a bit despondent, maybe they rage quit. I tend to have a bit of a different approach to this. So whenever you're down in the opening, there's an opportunity to try to turn it around. You're now the underdog, you're clearly losing, but potentially you can get that reversal. You can get that recovery. In fact, you're playing potentially for a draw, maybe playing for a win, and when that happens, it's just so deliciously satisfying. So I actually don't mind losing a piece like this. Now, it wakes me up. I need to obviously not play dumb moves, but the tactic here, understanding you're losing, whether you lose fast, lose big, or you lose slow and drawn out, you've still lost. So the calculus is a little bit different. So risky sort of moves are in fact less risky because sure, the engine might say the evaluation is worse, but you're losing anyway. So the goal is not necessarily to play the most accurately, but from my perspective, from a strategic view, is to try to play tricky, difficult, aggressive moves. We are inviting our opponent to make a mistake. We're inviting our opponent to blunder because that is how the reversal occurs. So from this perspective, the best move is bishop captures because, we keep the defense here. However, one of the psychological things to consider is that when the opponent wins a piece like the queen, particularly in the opening, for many people, they get caught up in a loss aversion bias. Now, what that means is that because they've gotten ahead, and they really have gotten ahead, they've won a queen, they really, really don't want to lose that advantage. They don't want to lose that, win that they've gotten so far, which means they're much less likely to play aggressively. So in practical terms, they're much less likely to give back material, even if it's good for them because they gain an advantage in position. And that can be a really useful thing to recognize and play against. Here, as I said, best move is bishop captures the knight. However, knight captures knight, which is what I played. In fact, I played it quite quickly. Immediate tactic, there's an attack on the queen, and also the queen's knight goes to the powerful d5 square. As I said, attack here, that comes with check, attack here, comes with check. It's just a better position for the knight. Now this is not a good move because, as I said, queen can potentially capture here, and they even have a fork on these two pieces. But here we see a loss aversion bias. Rather than taking very quickly, black moved their queen, sidestepped away from the attack, conservative, slow, trying to hold on to the defense, queen d7. It's an inaccuracy. Not a mistake. An inaccuracy. Black is still completely fine here, still absolutely completely winning, but this gives me information about the opponent's state of mind. They're not going to play necessarily aggressive moves, and if I keep up with the attack, create the opportunities for the opponent to make a mistake, that is where I can potentially get the win. All right, now in this position, what I notice is, look at this. There's a potential royal fork. Very, very good. Defended at the moment by the opponent's bishop, so I need to try to move their bishop out of the defense of that square. How can I do that? pawn forward, there's an attack here, a bishop potentially can also deflect their bishop. Let's go. All right, they take. Now here, the best move is probably just to take back here because, you know, they can't take back and, you know, potentially pushing pawn forward, obviously very, very good. However, play tricky, aggressive moves, moves that the opponent might not be expecting, and because they're not expecting it, they're much less likely that any calculation they've made up to that point will count. The bishop to h6, and basically tricky move. If they play that, they capture my bishop, royal fork. The interesting thing here is that this might even actually be Black's best move, because after captures, yes, I give a royal fork. King's gonna have to move somewhere. I don't know, let's say they move here, they take and they take back. Let's look at what's actually happened. We're moving towards the late middle game, maybe even heading towards an end game. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4 4 pieces. I only have 3. Up a full bishop. This is a really good position actually for Black. So in fact, if Black really looked at the position in a sober way, capturing, accepting the loss of their queens, a cold-blooded calculation is actually good for them. But that is not a very human approach, and given that I've already established that Black probably is suffering from a loss aversion bias, pretty sure they weren't going to do that. And they didn't. So here they decide to, you know, short castles, makes sense. I don't want to capture because if the king moves here, no longer, well, first the king defends, but I also no longer have that royal fork. And notice even after the king has short castled, the royal fork is still present. The d5 square is so powerful for the queen's knight in the Vienna game. So here, potential can do this, a rook lift, because if I pin that bishop, again, same thing. I've got that royal fork. That's my plan. Now, Black was probably seeing that they're starting to have a problem. They try to counterattack. It doesn't work. And again, in this position, it's actually probably best for Black just to trade down. They decide to try to kick my knight a kick, to move it out of that position. Well, it looks like they've got enough tempo, but they don't. Bishop to b5, a square they probably never considered. Stockfish doesn't agree with this, but you know, this is a double down on the attack because this pawn is pinned to the queen, so they can't take this way, and I'm willing to sacrifice pieces. Sacrifice pieces for the initiative, for the attack. They basically fall for my tactic. They capture, and that now gives me just the move I need, the tempo I needed, a rook to g3. It's a pin. Notice after that capture here, the g file is semi-opened. After they're short castled, it's a problem, and this is the whole problem with g7. There's weakened dark squares around the king if they castle short. This is pinned. What are they going to do? And in fact, here I've managed to create these tactical lines, these aggressive attacks, and we've narrowed down to a single critical position. In this position, Black has only a single good move. Can you see it? What did you consider? The best and only good move for Black is somewhat, you know, unintuitive, hard to see, f6. And it's hard to see because they still have to accept that they're going to lose their queen, because this is an absolute fork, captures, captures, captures. But here, just like before, Black has 3 pieces in an endgame. I only have 2. Black is winning this position. That's what they needed to do. However, they didn't see it, or they didn't find it. They decided to capture this way. That's a blunder. Look at this, mate in 2, a knight now gives that royal fork, and in fact, I don't even need to capture the queen. Black has a single forced move, king must go into the corner, no other legal moves, and in this position, don't need to capture the queen, bishop captures bishop with check, and in this position, it's mate. Good game, GG. The big takeaway from this game is to frame a blunder in the opening, including losing a queen, as an opportunity rather than a loss. You've got still the opportunity to potentially aim for a reversal, either a draw or maybe even a win, by playing aggressive, tricky moves. And it's enormously fun to do so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.